mayor candidate forum. Thank you for being here. LVC is hosting this event, and I want to thank the Bonita Unified School District for inviting us to come into this location. It's quite a change from our usual setting, so we have a few hiccups. Bear with us. I want to thank our candidates, Mayor Don Kendrick, Councilperson Hepburn, and filmmaker candidate Gibson for their participation for this truly community-based grassroots program. This is the first ever, and I think it's exciting to see how many people are showing up. Just a little background. LV3C sponsored a very similar forum a few weeks ago on the 27th of February. All 6 council candidates attended, and in direct follow-up with me, they said that they felt the forum was independent, fair to all, and ran very smoothly. In keeping with that, we will follow a very similar format tonight. All interested parties, in addition to LVC members, were invited from the community. We invite all audience members to ask questions, and we'll continue to have sign-in sheets circulated. As Matt indicated, we have a sign-in sheet, so if you want to ask a question, there'll be a randomized drawing of those questions. As per the last meeting, it is an LV3C gathering, so we will videotape, and we are asking that no other audio or video be performed. And if you want to use your phone for solitaire or anything else, please put it away. It's not the purpose. As I said, my name is Rick Bowen. I'm the chairperson of LV3C. I want to introduce Hugh Kelly. He's one of our administrators that manages Facebook. Pam Derry, don't know where Pam is, right here, is also one of our administrators and general researcher. And Fred Fott is our member at large. Where's Fred? Over there. Also want to thank Anna Anderson and Marlene Jensen and numerous others for assisting in this meeting. Special thanks to Kathy Newland and Lois Joe Wetton for their continuous support of this group. They're at every meeting. We really appreciate it. A little background, LVC3 was formed on October 1, 2018. There's about 20 people that got together and expressed some concerns over some of the issues facing our great city. I want to emphasize some. This city is a great city. We all moved here, hopefully, because we wanted to. We love the city. We're just asking for a voice and participation and transparency. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot lately, but that's what we want. That remains part of our mission. I looked up the membership as of tonight. There was 1,338 citizens that have joined this group and daily we get requests for people to join. I can't thank you all enough for your interest and support. Quickly, I'd like to see quick hands of LVC members, if you would. Good, great, thanks. How about, did you attend the last council forum? Another great, thank you. If you attended that forum, you saw a meeting that was all-inclusive, fair and impartial. That's the same goal tonight. Our goal is to get to know all the mayoral candidates, be able to ask them questions important to you. We've added over 30 minutes to the meeting at the front end in order to hopefully answer each and every question posed. Our moderator tonight is Matt Lyons. Matt is a Bonita Unified School District member, board member, and Deputy District Director for the local congressperson. Thanks, Matt, for donating your time and your energy for tonight's meeting. So, Matt Lyons, thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining us tonight. I just have a few housekeeping matters to go over. All of the candidates received instructions last week as to how the forum would be organized. As Rick mentioned, it's organized in identical fashion to the council forum that was very successfully received. But I'll just explain it to the audience members who may not have been there. We ran into capacity issues at the church, and just really happy that, one, this facility was available. It did help that it was a student-free day, because this facility is usually not available, but we obviously do not have a capacity issue tonight. So I want to thank you all for joining us. So the way it will work is we'll have opening statements from all of the candidates. It will go in order of how they're listed in the ballot. Then it will go into what we're calling predetermined and audience questions. The leadership of LV3C has indicated that they have a higher priority on hearing from the audience. So those predetermined questions will be limited. It seems like we have quite a bit of interest from the audience to ask questions, so we will focus on that. Just so you know how that was done, we received interest by residents. They put their name on the list. A random sequence was drawn earlier today around 2 o'clock. And so a sequence of numbers was drawn. And just so you know who will be the first few speakers when it comes to the audience, I want to cue you up. The first one will be John Sador. Second one will be Tom Scahill. The third one will be, and I'm going to just say Ryan Kosilski. I know I butchered the last name, I apologize. Craig Beaumont will be number 4. Number 5 will be Pam Berry. And George Del Toro, George Del Toro will be the next. That's what we have in sequence right now. And then we will have closing statements. And again, those will be 3 minutes, and then we'll go in reverse order. Just know that every candidate will have the opportunity to be first, and every candidate will have the opportunity to be last in answering questions. Another thing I wanted to add is, hopefully you'll hear very little from me. I think a successful moderator is seen and heard very little. You came here to hear the candidates and not me. One of the things that is unique in this forum is the questions will be unfiltered. They will be coming directly from audience members. You will stand up and ask your question directly to the candidates or candidate. I think this is the best in format for forums. Again, you get to ask the candidates directly on matters that are important to you. One of the things I wanted to hope that everyone adheres to is, and this goes to the candidates, please adhere to the time frames that you've been communicated. We have our timekeeper right here for the benefit of the audience. When there's 30 seconds left, you'll see a yellow. When time's up, you'll see a red. And we have our timekeeper in front of the 3 candidates. My last instruction, this goes to the audience questions, is I'd like to keep the campaign statements from the candidates and not the audience. So please keep your question to a question. We were very successful in having that adhered to during the council candidate forum. So please refrain from statements and stick to questions. Okay? I want to thank you in advance. So the first question, or actually I take that back. We're going to start with opening statements. And the first opening statement will be from Tim Hepburn.
Thank you, LV3C, for your interest and participation in this very important election. Thank you, Laverne residents, for letting me share with you my vision for this great city going forward. What unites us all is greater than what divides us. We all want what is best for Laverne. What brought me to this place, we are here tonight. To this spot right now, involvement and concern. Before I became your councilman for the last 5 years, I was chair of the Planning Commission, on the Hillcrest Board of Directors. I was on the Bond Oversight Committee, Bonita High School Beautification Committee. I received the Jim Strand Award for Community Involvement, received a Founders Award for Community Service, sponsored Hillcrest Good Samaritan Dinner, Teacher of the Year, sponsored for Beer Walk, Wine Walk, Taste of Laverne Ed Foundation, Golf Tournament. I was president of BH Boosters. I donated all the electrical to the Habitat for Humanity home in 2016, installed all the audio infrastructure for the scoreboard and BHA's football field when the new infield was put in. T-ball coach, baseball sponsor, ASO coach, board member and sponsor team parent for multiple high school sports. PTA member, choral sponsor. I am currently a member of the Laverne Rotary. I serve as third vice president of the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. I'm very honored to be the only candidate to be endorsed by all of the school board members. I mention my past experience not because I want you to know my resume, but because long before I ever thought I would run for city council or mayor, I was just a concerned resident and wanted to give back to our community and contribute where I could, however I could. It turns out 30 years of being active in this community was the best experience I could have asked for to prepare and educate me to take on the role as your mayor. As your city council member, together, we have put an enhanced infrastructure financing district in place to develop the Gold Line Station corridor. We financed our pension obligation bond at a more affordable rate. We are now live streaming our meetings to give access and transparency to all of our residents. We have stopped the widening of White Avenue. As a council member, I've worked tirelessly on your behalf. I have prioritized listening and responding to the residents and your concerns. As mayor, I will continue to build on, success and build for a safer and more inclusive Laverne. As your mayor, I will build relationships with our new council members, as well as rebuilding relationships with our current council members and city staff. I will continue to champion for our residents and employees. I have never doubted that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. And in this case, Laverne, I count myself lucky to be one of those citizens. And with your support, I would be honored to serve as your mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Don Kendrick.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody, for coming here this evening. It's a night out, and you're here. Thank you. In 2019, last year, almost 94% of Laverne's residents on a survey sampling the size of 700 said their quality of life in Laverne was either...
Distant.
Is that better?
Good. First of all, thank you everybody for being here. It's a time that we need to make some good decisions, and you being a part of this is good. Last year, toward the end, there was a survey, and 94% of our residents in a sampling size of about 700 said their quality of life in Laverne was either good or excellent. Laverne has never had a higher sample, never had a higher percentage, and it has occurred on my watch. One of the reasons I'm running for mayor is because I think we can get this number higher. Every decision needs to have a component that says, how does this decision affect the quality of life for each and every one of us? There's an elephant in the room, and I would like to address it head on. Does Laverne, having our own police department and fire department, have an effect on each of our quality of life? I know there is a percentage of our firefighters who would like to take our city, our fire department to the county. I just don't agree. This is a quality of life issue for the residents of Laverne. I will never agree to allow our fire department or police department to go county. I would hope that all candidates, including those here tonight, would also commit to this highest quality of life for the residents of Laverne. In 2011, I co-founded the first economic development committee ever in Laverne. We used interactive social media to promote commercial vacancies, began having regular morning meetings with commercial property owners, our commercial site brokers, and other brokers doing business in Laverne. The outcome, San Paulo Business District, just north of Verne Airfield, is full. Additional properties have been added to San Paulo Business District, therefore. Gilead Biopharmaceutical Company has been added on 23 acres, which is located on excess property formerly owned by Metropolitan Water, which was exempt from property taxes. The city is now receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue never before received from this property. In 7 to 8 years, when Gilead is built out, they will employ 1,000 people, all spending money in Laverne. Foothill Boulevard reached 97% and will again when the vacant Osh building opens with a new business and with the completion of a new restaurant at the site of the previous Baker Square. We have reached my goal of 100 restaurants, bringing in additional revenue and from many living outside Laverne. Old Town Laverne has had a huge influx of restaurants and increased sales. In the last 6 years, restaurant sales just in Old Town have increased from under 4 million to 13 million in 2019. All this while I've been mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Zach Gibson.
Can you guys hear me? Good evening. My name is Zach Gibson, and I'm proud to stand here as your third candidate for mayor. I'm here tonight for the same reason that all of you are here. We all care enough not to make our We all care enough to not only make our concerns and suggestions heard, but to seek solutions for the severe issues a city is facing. Your calls for change have been heard, and it's time for a city to look at a new perspective, a new angle, an upgrade, if you will. Because the antiquated ways in which we keep coming at these issues are not working. They are only causing discord among us. We need a candidate that has no conflicts of interest in regarding the needs and development of our city, and we deserve a mayor that has innovative plans as to how Laverne can remain both a tight-knit community while moving forward with what lies ahead. Our future relies on leadership that can conceive and implement sustainable policy, and I, like all of you, am here tonight because I believe that we are still a community that can survive and thrive. New leadership is necessary for health and future of our city. Under current management, we have lost control of not just a transparent government, but oversight, accountability, and even basic ethics. I greatly look forward to discussing specifics and policies in my campaign. Most importantly, many of you might be wondering why I have not been campaigning so aggressively, if at all. The reasons will shock you, and I can now begin to share with you the information that I've uncovered over the course of my campaign regarding the unethical and clandestine affiliations of our past and our current government. While Sierra Laverne has been a massive point of controversy, what we have been consistently and constantly told about zoning is a lie. Our 2017 municipal election was poorly managed because of the city's incompetence, resulting in incomplete, backdated, and intentionally falsified paperwork that potentially changed the election. Our city officials have historically and continue to engage in a private, mutually beneficial, male-only club that charades as a charity, which means several times a year in Big Bear to decide the fate of our city without our knowledge. They are known as the Bear Valley Gang, excuse me. We have a government that is plagued with lawsuits solely based on departmental favoritism and managerial personal vendettas. What is best for the city and all of us is that we all know the facts. Votes have already been cast, and I believe that we deserve true transparency. And as your third option for mayor, tonight and in the future, that is what I'm offering. Ask us anything, that is why we are here, to be transparent and open with all the residents of Laverne. Thank you.
Okay, so we started the council candidates forum with this very same question, but I'm going to prelude it with, we have the opportunity to vote for a mayor and 2 council members in our upcoming election on March 3rd. We're definitely going to have 2 new faces on the city council because of the city council race. But in addition to those 2 choices, we as residents have the choice to vote for or against Measure LV. So the first question to all 3 candidates, and this will be starting with Don Kendrick, is what is your position on Measure LV and why?
My position is that we should vote for it. Measure LV is an opportunity to secure our future. We need the revenue in order to do that. The city of Laverne removed the pension obligation of unfunded liability of almost $50 million. But to do that, we had to cut on some of the other things that we were doing. And we have cut about as far as we can go. So by passing Measure LV, we secure Laverne's future in that aspect. Also, one thing that I would like to say, there's a lot of other communities that have passed this already. And why they passed it is because there is rumblings from the county that they are going to go after a 3/4% sales tax for the county. If we secure it first, 10.25% is the state mandated height for sales tax revenue being charged. We will get all of that, all 3/4 cent, into the city of Laverne and not go to county, and it won't be taken away.
Thank you. Before we go to Zach, I just want to queue up our audience members. So the first 2 audience members who will ask a question, they'll come down and speak from this microphone. They'll be coming down here for the purposes of being on the video that we're recording. So John Sador will be number 1, and Tom Scahill will be number 2. So if I could have John make his way down and be ready for the question. Now we'll have Zach answer the LV question.
Hello again. I am actually not for the measure. Personally, I would vote no for it. I believe we have a spending problem and not a budget problem. I think that the wording, specifically the wording in this measure is not clear enough, it's not strict enough for it to go to the general fund, and we do have in there an oversight, but the oversight committee is 5 citizens appointed by the city council, and that's not enough oversight for me. I believe that we should have more. We might even need to have an ethics committee to overview that. But I do believe that it will pass. I think that. So what I think we should do is, if it does pass, and we're afraid that the county's going to come in and increase our taxes, then why not put a moratorium on this like we've done with Airbnb? And maybe we can change up some of the wording before county even proposes that. And then if we can get the wording right, and it can actually be spread amongst all the departments, and as I assume, not just to the police and the roads, then I think that should be just fine as long as we reword the sales tax measure itself.
Thank you. Tim Hepburn.
I support and approve of the 3/4 cent sales tax. It will generate $3.1 million annually, 100% of the revenue staying in Laverne. With these funds, attract and retain all employees, rebuild our fire department, continue to fund capital improvement program, improve our roads, buildings, and playgrounds, continue to keep our residents and communities safe. If this measure does not pass, there is a possibility the county will come in and take the 3/4 cent sales tax anyway. What we'll get is a portion of that, not the whole thing. To determine where the revenue will be spent, a committee made up of residents with financial background to help determine where the dollars will be. I'm having trouble with pages tonight. Will be allocated and give their recommendations to staff and city council. It's very important that we pass this one, Chair. I do support it. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go to our first audience question, John Sidor. Before he asks that question, I'm just going to reiterate the expectation when it comes to the audience questions. So please bear with me. Let's see. So it goes, the selected audience members will ask the question directly to the candidates. Questions to specific candidates will be allowed. If it becomes evident that the question is outside the jurisdiction of the city, or the question is similar or the same as one that has already been asked and answered, I will intervene as the moderator. Also, again, statements from the audience are not allowed. If the questions do require a prelude, then we ask that it is limited to 1 to 2 sentences. Please focus on the question. Thank you.
Good evening. Just a real quick question, and it relates to the City Council's decision to extend the city manager's contract. And while I don't know the city manager, I attend the City Council meetings. I've been told he's done a relatively good job for the city. But I was also told, and I understand, that he, at the time of the vote that the City Council took, still had 2 years left on his contract. I don't know that that's true. So my question to Mayor Pendriff and Councilman Hepburn is, if you could comment on those things, who placed it on the agenda? Why was it placed on the agenda, given the fact that the city manager had 2 years left on his current contract, if that is in fact true? And does that extension strike either of you as being a premature decision? Thank you.
Okay, so because that question was directed directly to Tim and Dawn, Zach, you would have been first to answer that question. It will then go to Tim being first, and then Dawn will be second. Tim.
The city manager's contract was put on the agenda by the city manager staff, came before the council, and I did vote against it for the reason of we have 2 council members, new council members coming on, and a new mayor possibly, and we have 2 years remaining, plus an 18-month severance package. My feeling was you have 2 new council members and a new mayor, let them decide. You still have 2 years left on your contract. What you do is you tie the hands of those people as they come in and to try to vote that out. So I personally thought that that was unfair and it shouldn't have been done, and I did not support it.
I did support the extension of the contract. Bob Russi, our city manager, is one of the top city managers in all of San Gabriel Valley and has recently been voted as the president of the San Gabriel Valley Planning City Managers Organization. Bob Russi was handpicked by Martin Lamelli, at the time considered one of the finest administrators in the state of California, and spent 9 years learning from one of the best. He has continued that and has done an exemplary job of doing all the things that a city manager could do, including things like the pension obligation bond, the sustainability plan. A lot of those were just ideas. He is very good at financing in Laverne and has kept us on a very good road. If you don't provide opportunities to keep your city manager, somebody else will. And there isn't a lot of choices out there, high quality choices. So beware of what you ask for. Thank you.
Okay, the second question will be coming from Tom Scahill. And Tom, if you could, that was a great start. Room for improvement when it comes to the prelude. So a little bit shorter on the prelude, go to the question.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Good evening, candidates. I do appreciate you all taking the time to come out here and address us this evening. My question is for all 3 candidates. With the recent $80 million enhanced infrastructure financing district that's been established here in the city of Laverne, what are your future plans, if elected, for the rollout and the implementation of those funds and the corresponding infrastructure here within the city limits?
Thank you. And the first to answer that question will be Dawn. It will then go to Zach, and then Tim Hepburn.
This opportunity for Laverne did not come by accident. 5.5 years ago, I reenacted a committee of Fairplex, City University of Laverne, and the City of Laverne to work on how we could get an amazing, approved Old Town specific plan, which was the plan that was for the Gold Line development. The problem is we didn't have any money, but the state legislature, after Governor Brown took away redevelopment agency money, passed a bill called the EIFD, and it means Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District. It's way over, everybody said, unless you sit down and kind of go through the numbers. But it's an opportunity to create the infrastructure in a pro-development area, which our Gold Line is. So when we redid this 5.5 years ago, we looked to a company called Cosmont. It's Larry Cosmont, spent many hours with us to create this opportunity. So the rollout is going to be gradually. I was at the County Board of Supervisors and spoke in favor of this, and we got a 5-0 vote that the city and the county work together to create the policy, because the county did not have a policy, so we helped them write it. So we will get, over the next 15 to 20 years, $80 million to create the development for the city of Laverne.
Okay, Zach, before I have you start, I'm just going to queue up our next two audience questions. Ryan Kosielski and Craig Beaumont will be the next two questions. So if you could just please queue up down here. Go ahead, Zach.
I am really excited about the EIFD. I think it's a great opportunity for our city to grow, both with the housing that we got coming in. I would personally like to see more affordable housing, though, instead of 250 out of 1,700 units. I think that would help grow our community better by having affordable housing. The rollout, reading it, you are right, Mayor. It is definitely a read. It's got to be slow, and it has to be well thought out, because if we just let the first come in, then we're going to dictate the way our community is going to be for the next forever, as we can see it. So we really have to be, sorry about that, can you hear me now? Thank you. So we really have to be specific in the businesses that we're selecting, and really just, it's so hard. We're going to get such an influx of people coming in with that Gold Line, but with this EIFD, we're going to get countless more. I think it's important for our future to really look at the businesses that want to come here, because they're going to shape the future of this city. So I think it needs to be slow, and as slow as it needs to be, and gradual.
Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim?
The EIFD was an extremely big accomplishment for our little city here in Laverne. This was one of the first enhanced infrastructure financing districts that was approved. The council worked hard on it. I think it's going to be a great asset to our Gold Line corridor. I think it's just going to bring a lot of new development there with the increment taxes it is, and with our Gold Line. There's nothing but positive about this thing. So hold on, and it's going to happen, and this is a great thing for our city. Thank you.
Okay, so we have Ryan up.
Hello. My question is, I've lived in Laverne since '96. My mom moved us here because it's small, quiet, charming. I stayed and raised my kids here, and they're still here. I want to know, with all this new stuff coming in with the infrastructure, what are you going to do to keep Laverne small, safe, Mayberry feeling? Or do you plan on changing that? That's all.
Okay, first to answer that would be Zach.
to keep the small town feel, you're saying? I think we, as a community, this is a crucial time where we need to decide what we want to be. We have, obviously with the goal line in this, we have an influx of people and interest that are going to be looking at Laverne. And I think we, as residents and a community, really need to decide which way we want to go forward. We can modernize the city while keeping a small town feel. And the fear of us going away from a small town feel goes back to the 1970 election for city council, where when the freeway came in, they were really worried that that would change the small town feel. But obviously we were able to control that and build the housing and do that. So I think that we got to pay close attention to, I don't think personally, I got one vote and I can, if elected, I would only have one vote, so I can only listen to the people as to what they would want, but that's something that I would love to keep. The small town feel is great, and it feels like a community here, and we just need to make sure that we keep businesses and bring businesses that foster that sense of community and small town values and everything.
Thank you. Tim?
It's very important to keep our small town atmosphere here. Raising 3 children here, it's very important. I think it's extremely important also to make sure that the residents are involved when the designs come through, to vet it out with everyone in this room and our whole community, to let them know what's going there, to make sure it suits and fits our needs, make sure it's something not off the wall that's not going to suit the little town that we live in, and keep those great town values. So very important. Again, I'm all about residents' input and making sure that we see it, we look at it, touch and feel to make sure that it really does suit this community's needs and keep our little town like it is, a beautiful place to live and raise our kids. Thank you.
And Don?
Great question. Thank you very much. Mayberry, we've all heard that. There's only one issue I think that really needs to be addressed, and that is when you look at the developments, not only residentially but commercially, how is the quality of life affect Laverne residents? It's pretty simple when you use that as a guideline. We've had many housing developments that have wanted to come to Laverne, haven't made it, because it doesn't create the quality of life that we all enjoy, businesses and so forth. But I think we have a bigger problem on keeping our quality of life, and we all have to be diligent about this. SB 50 failed in the state legislature, and it's to create housing so houses go out and a fourplex comes in. This is Governor Newsom's plan. So our rural communities like Laverne are going to be jeopardized if our governor decides or gives his way and create this. So we really have to work together to make sure that as we move forward together, that we're going to continue the quality of life and the Mayberry feeling of Laverne. Thank you.
Okay, so the first to answer this next question will be Tim, and will be asked by Craig. And if I could just have Pam Berry and George Del Toro to queue up.
Good evening. 50-year resident. My question is for you, Councilman Hepburn. Our department is supporting you. If you are elected mayor, will you choose to go county? And if you do, how many fire stations do you think will be eliminated? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, because the last council meeting, all over social media, I didn't answer that question because it was a Brown Act violation on good business, not on a council agenda item. I support local police and fire to stay local. So there you go. Right there.
Thank you. Was that a question directed to? Okay. So we have Pam Berry, and the question will be first unless it's a single candidate question, Dawn Kendrick will be the first to answer.
Okay, yeah, this is for everyone. Sierra Laverne Golf Course was closed in July 2019 by the most recent property owner who desires to develop a large number of homes on the land. In order to do so, the current zoning of agriculture and open space would need to be changed. What is your current and long-term position on rezoning that land to allow potential building in North Laverne's open space?
Thank you, Pam. I have probably watched every single housing development that you live in being developed unless you live south of 8th Street. But I also know that open space is valuable. I love to camp. I love to get out with my trailer. I used to run cross country when I was in high school through the orange groves here. I loved it. My intent is that we keep Sierra Laverne zoned agriculture, designated as open space, period. I have no desire whatsoever of changing it. The only thing that I would suggest is keeping the owner of this property feet to the fire the best we can so that the weed abatement is continued, the ponds are kept full, so it doesn't create a health hazard with the mosquito abatement and so forth. But my goal is to keep that as open space, zoned as agriculture.
Zach?
Well, when talking about Sierra Laverne, sorry, there you are. When talking about Sierra Laverne, what I've discovered is that everywhere we're talking about it, it's zoned open space, but it's not zoned open space, it's zoned A1. And everywhere it says that it's 4 parcels of land. Well, what I found is that it's not 4 parcels of land, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parcels of land. And I have right here that 2 of them are actually not zoned limited agriculture. 2 of them are zoned planned residential PRD3, which means that you have 3 detached dwellings, units per acre. And then I have other ones that just say that it's just in the general plan that it's open space, and we have a conditional permit for it. So I think that's something that we actually have to look at and actually understand what's written there, because what I'm finding is not consistent with what the city's telling us. And I'd actually suggest we all look into that more, because that's going to affect us greatly. I could go into the switch, but I'll just keep it on Sierra Laverne. We need to look into that, the zoning specifically of that, if we want it to stay. And I do want it to stay as it is, but you can only do so much with what the government gave us, our current government, in regards to letting that happen and letting that go.
Tim?
Well, 5 years ago, 5 years younger, I should say, I was the lone council member that made the motion to, after the residents said, we do not want Marshall Canyon and Sierra Laverne to be swapped and build homes in North Laverne. I was the council member that put the motion on the floor with utter dead silence until Donna Redmond made a second, and the motion carried, to stop the Marshall Canyon Sierra Laverne land swap. I am in favor of no rezone of the golf course. It's to stay open land or a golf course, period. Thank you.
Okay, so the next question will be asked by George Del Toro. I just want to queue up our next few audience members. We have Rick Bowen and Annie Williams queued up to ask the next few questions. George will ask the question, and unless it's directed to a specific candidate, the first to answer will be Zach.
Candidates, thank you for this opportunity, and I appreciate what you're doing. Please state your opinion on the City Council having a voice in the choice of the selection of a fire chief, similar to how the city selects a police chief.
Okay, and Zach will answer that one first.
Your question is that they actually get the voice, so you want it to be, if we hire a fire chief like we do a police chief.
Mayor, Glover.
Is that correct?
Currently, and my understanding,
Yes.
the council does get involved with the hiring of the police chief, but not the fire chief.
Yes.
That's my question.
So you're asking, would I rather it be that we get a say in the fire chief as well? Is that what you're saying?
Do we treat the same positions the same is what I'm
We treat it the same way. Well, as far as I can tell, doing research on that specific topic, the reason why we do that is because that's how we've always done it. So, and that has come up, that specific phrasing. Well, that's just how we've always done it. That's how we've always done it. I come from a fire family, and I would like, I kind of would like to see them have some input, but honestly, I'd rather it stay in-house. I want people to be able to know who they're going to be working for or under, and be able to trust them and build that camaraderie that comes along with that specific job, especially if their lives are on the line. Then they have to be able to trust that person. And if we have to hire that person and they don't know who it is, that might not be fair to them.
Tim?
Well, I'm the one that brought that motion up. A resident asked the question at a council meeting regarding the fire chief, and maybe it's time to have the council review and interview the proposed fire chief in order to give the recommendation to the city manager. We do that currently with the police chief. And with what's happened with our fire department and a fire chief basically running amok, I think it's very important that the residents have a say with their council to overview a fire chief, to make sure that it's going to suit our community and also suit the fire department and also work with the city manager. So I am in total favor of having the council review and interview for a new fire chief. I did make the motion and it did not pass 4-1, which you're kind of used to sometimes. Thank you.
Don?
The police chief was the very first employee that was hired in the city of Laverne after the incorporation in 1906. And the reason is because the people on the city council felt that the most important thing in our city was safety, and it has stayed that way. I have been involved in 2 of the processes of the interviewing of chief. As soon as the decision is made, and there's certainly input from the city manager, it is turned over to the city manager because he becomes a department head. So the fire chief, police chief, we have a public works director who's in charge of a $20 million, the largest budget in our city because it includes water, it includes sewer, it includes a lot of things. Those are all promoted within, and we have outstanding department heads. I am not in favor of changing from the city manager doing the hiring to the city council doing the hiring. I would much prefer it stay the same. It was highly recommended by our police chief, and I think we had a good chief.
Okay, so our next audience question is from Rick Bowen, and unless it is a specific question to a specific candidate, the first one to answer will be Tim.
Good evening. I want to go back to Sierra Laverne for a minute. Mr. Mayor, you directing this at the mayor, and a side question to Tim and Zach. Mr. Mayor, you say all the accomplishments that took place under your tenure. What specifically did you personally do in contacting or communicating with the owner of Sierra Laverne to potentially stop what went on, the closure of the club. And my other question to both the other candidates is, what, as mayor, would you have done to help stop that from happening?
I personally did not make any contact with the owner of the property, nor has anybody. The only person that we've been able to make contact with is the attorney. 15 years, that golf course lost money. And the person who owned it, along with the banquet facility, sold it to who we believe is Mr. Schlesinger. We don't know because it's a Delaware incorporation, which no names get put out. So we believe, based on his activities, that that's who owns it. But nobody has been able to make contact with them. We have, before they bought it, we told them, you will not have a path to development. We told them that many times, didn't listen, bought it anyway. After a while, shut the water off, and you see it like it is today.
Okay, so it will go now to Tim and Zach, if you are going to answer this question.
As mayor, basically listen to the residents, see what's going on, and also the club people that were part of the golf course. We were hearing this for some time, that there were issues and they were probably going to close. Then when the builder came along and said, well, this is what we're proposing, no one really had an idea what was going on. But as mayor, the minute I would have heard that there was an issue, I would have rallied with the city manager and the council, discuss what's going on. Also, what we hear from the residents, get the ones that have the information, talk to them, and go straight to the source. Go to the owner and say, what's up? What's going on? What can we do to stop this? You know, we've got homes that pay premiums on this golf course that are very, very important. They have a living style that they're very used to. And so that's what I would have done. I think that we kind of missed it, unfortunately, and now we're where we're at here. But and we're dealing with an individual that's a pretty unscrupulous business dealer, and he really wants to develop land. That's all he wants, and he wants to sell at developer prices and build homes. Well, not in Laverne. Thank you.
Zach?
Well, I'll be posting this, oops, Rick. I'll actually be posting this on my website later this week. I actually have the deed of sale, so if you guys would like to look at it as well, it will be on my website later this week, because I was able to find it just by searching for it, because I was so inclined. If I was in the position, I would have tried to look for the correct buyer. It sold for $3.65 million. That's 111 acres in northern Laverne for just over $3.5 million. If I couldn't find the right buyer, I would have asked for the city to buy it. And we might have had to sell it ourselves, but that would have been financially gain on our part. We might have lost a little money for a second, but at the end, if we had to develop some of it ourselves, at least then we get to choose what we were going to develop. And then we wouldn't have to be in this bickering argument with a grown man-child. But that's how we find ourselves with this current administration.
Okay, so the next audience question will be coming from Annie Williams. The first to respond will be Zach. Just to queue up our next few audience members, we have Jojo Fott, followed by Ron White. Go ahead.
Thank you to everyone who's made this tonight possible. My husband and I are new to the city, and our house registered July 2019. I've had some interactions with the city, and some red flags were raised, and tonight, from Zach, I'm hearing more red flags, and I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot here. Zach made some statements about there's not full disclosure. There's some things that are hidden from us, and our vote counts. So I want full disclosure. he's made some statements about we're not being told this and we're not being told that, and I'm thinking, what's going on?
And the question is?
The question is to, I'm sorry, Mayor Don and Tim, what are you gentlemen going to do? And this is to Zach as well. What are you gentlemen going to do? What is your plan for full disclosure, for including all of us into all these things that are going on? Because I'm thinking, who's making these decisions? I want to know about them. So how are you guys, what's the plan? What does it look like? And how are we going to be able to be involved? Because Zach said 5, only 5 members for this oversight. Look how many are here, 5? Doesn't sound like enough to me, so. What does that look like to you, gentlemen? How are you going to make it work? Oversight, full disclosure.
And
Thank you.
the question starts with Zach.
I agree with you. The oversight is ridiculous here. And a word that we'd like to throw around a lot is transparency. Well, the city of Laverne, what we have right here that we like to publish is right here at the very top in charge is citizens. And then under the citizens is the city attorney, the city council, city clerk. We don't have a city clerk, so our city manager who's under that acts as the city clerk. So we're missing out a little bit there. But a good thing to implement, when we're talking about transparency, it's just a word until we actually implement things. So from transparency, we need accountability, we need oversight. When we talk about transparency, it's nice to have a window and be able to see a robbery, but if I'm just looking through, that's transparency. Having accountability about what happens and what goes on, that's not having closed door sessions. That's having open sessions for everybody to be a part of, because every decision made behind closed doors affects everyone here. It affects everyone within our city. And I feel that we should implement an ethics committee and have more actual oversight that has oversight over the government itself. That way we can hold them in line, because we, the citizens, are the ones that they are supposed to be working for. And that's what I would like to do if elected in.
Tim?
Well, I think I would probably represent transparency and open governance. Since I've been on council, the meetings have been larger. We're live streaming the meetings. We have people that can ask questions of council that we put on the agenda. Residents have a concern. We go to them, they have a concern, we bring it up, pass it right over to the city manager and say, we have an issue. That's what it's all about. And as Zach pointed out, we, the residents, are on top of that org chart. It's so important for all of us. We have a voice. And lately, the last 5 years since I've been on council, people have voiced their opinions. There's been many things that happened in this community, and they stopped because of the fact that residents weren't happy. The taxpayers rule this community, and they dictate what happens here. As far as Zach was mentioning, I am not opposed to open closed session. A lot of the communities do, because everything's on the table. There are no secrets, and that's the way this city should be run. No secrets, open governance, no backdoor dealing. All that good stuff needs to go away. Not saying it's happening, but we need to be honest and upfront. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann, for bringing that question up. I don't know where only the last 5 years says that we've had any kind of people coming forward, because I had a real estate office down on Bonita Avenue, and it seemed like there were days I did a whole lot more city council question and answering than I ever did real estate. So I had many people coming in over the years, like, Facebook and all that. I get daily calls or Facebook messages to please answer questions, and I do that all the time. As far as transparency, some of the things we've done is the live streaming of the city council meetings. It was done at one time, then our photographer went away. We have had conversations, and I don't know where Anna Anderson is, but thank you, Anna. She kind of pushed this, and we now have the live stream throughout. Also, you can go ahead and watch those all the time. The city agendas are on there, the city minutes are on there. You can come to city council, you can ask for any documentation, and all that is available. But transparency kind of goes both ways. You have to want to be involved because the city wants you to be involved. So it's a two-way street. So please, if you have questions or thoughts, get involved.
Okay, next queued up we have JoJo Font, followed by Ron White. And the first, unless it's directed to a specific candidate, the first to answer will be Tim Hepburn.
Good evening. This is hypothetical, but I want to ask you this. The 22nd Amendment was passed by Congress in 1947 to place a 2-year limit on the presidential office. It's also being considered for Congress and the Senate. There are currently 36 states in which the governor is subject to some term limits. So, if term limits for the mayoral position in Laverne were on a future ballot, what would you personally vote, yes or no, and why?
Yes, because I feel that too much time is too long for a public position like this. I feel that there's plenty of people in this community to serve and serve well, and to keep that fresh ideas and governance and keep that moving. So yes, I am 100% in support of term limits.
Don?
One of the reasons the 22nd Amendment came into effect was because FDR died. Not that it isn't a good idea or a bad idea, that's just why that vote was happening. And we've had people that have been one term, we've had people that have been in many terms. Every time we have an election, like it's coming up, as a term limit, you can make your vote at the poll and do anything you want to get who you want and who your best choice is to run this city, not run the city, help the leadership run this city so that we can have the best possible person we have. If we have a great mayor, John Blicken's staff was 27-year mayor, and I think that everybody would be in agreement that that was 27 years that people appreciated his leadership. And so if you'd have had term limits, we would have lost a great leader, possibly the greatest leader in the city of Verne.
Zach?
I'm entirely for term limits. As a young person, I'm 30, I'm turning 31 this year. I'm not terribly young, but as a young person, I think it's important that we have turnover every generation. So I know in the 90s, the Senate didn't pass, they wanted to do a couple terms, so it would have been 12 years that you could have been. I feel that 13 terms, well, 13 and a half, 27 years, 13 and a half terms, that's an incredibly long time to, well, for this city, wield the power rather than to govern and listen to the people. I think that there should be term limits, and I think that we should be able to write legislation that's generational so then we can have sustainable policy that future generations can come in and just make better. And that's how it used to be. People used to be able to run. Before Blicken's staff, we had Frank Johnson. He was 35 when he was mayor. And we had Blicken's staff forever. So yes, term limits are important, and I think we need to implement
Thank you very
that.
much.
Yeah. Thank you.
At the risk of incurring Matt's wrath, I'll just say one thing. And I think I speak for all of our residents here. We thank you, Mr. Hepburn, for your service, and you, Mr. Mayor, for your service. And Zach, it's impressive to see you here tonight, a young man willing to serve our community. So thank all of you for what you do. So in a few weeks, we're all going to be going to the voting booth. And what I'd like to know from each one of you as you consider your own gifts and talents and your platforms, and that of your fellow candidates, when we go to the voting booth, why should we vote for you? What is it about you compared to, whether you want to compare yourself directly or not, but what is it about you, your gifts, your talents, that make it so important that we vote for you in March? So thank you very much.
And Don will answer this question first.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Matt. I think people should vote for me for the same reasons that you have in the past, and that is that I surround myself with the best people that I can. I don't care what I'm doing. It's Ronald Reagan used to have a drink with Tip O'Neill. I mean, they were polar opposites, and they would sit down and say, what can we do together? And I surround myself with the best people I can to get the best outcome. It's not about Don Kendrick, it's about the leadership and the decisions that are made for the residents of this Laverne. How can we improve the quality of life for our residents? That's really the only thing that matters. And if you can have that conversation and you can continue that conversation about quality of life, then that's what I stand for. If you want the best Laverne, vote for Don Kendrick.
Zach?
Hey, Ron. For me, my perspective, I'm half the age plus some of my other two cohorts over here. I have a different perspective than they do, and I can see the world differently. And I actually see my youth as an advantage rather than a disadvantage. Some people might cite experience, but my experience is growing up in the generation that's starting to take over, and even trying to listen to the council try and talk about Airbnb and not even understand it. That was painful for me to watch. And I really like you guys to consider, if we want to change direction, then we need somebody that has a different perspective. And while I know Tim and Don are different, they grew up relatively around the same time. So my perspective is going to be different just growing up in our generation. We run and gun generation. We had to learn on the fly everything. And I think that you guys should take that into account, is the perspective of who you want. Someone who's looking forward or someone who's looking back and is trying to keep that and hold on to it rather than hold on to it while looking forward. Thank you.
Tim?
Back in 2016, when I became on council, it's really ironic. You go back and look at what the things I promised I would do as your council member, also as your mayor in 2016. I would bring more involvement with the residents. Done. That's already done. And this is 2016 campaign. I would make the city business more accessible, publishing the meetings and staff reports, podcasting the meetings, encourage more residents' involvement, transparency, education and information, promote quality retailers and restaurants. How would you reduce the city deficit? 2016, mind you. We had no deficit or fiscal deficit, and there was no problem with the unfunded liability when I first came on council. I was the only council member that had an issue and said, we need to address this now or we're going to be in big trouble. Do compensation study on benefit structure, research our unfunded liability and our pension liability. You do everything we do currently rather than relying on the status quo. That's what I was doing as your mayor. And that's why you should select me as the mayor for Laverne. Thank you.
Okay, so to queue up the audience questions, we have Lisa Pettigrew up, followed by Cynthia Galvadon, then followed by Robert Carter. Lisa? And unless you ask questions specific to a candidate, the first to answer will be Zach.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for taking the time to explain your positions. My question is this. We're recent homeowners in Foothill Terrace last couple of years, so I've followed everything that's been happening. What is your position on taking away part of Foothill Terrace on the west side adjacent to White? And what will you do for those residents? Because right now it's in litigation.
Zach?
Foothill Terrace.
Mobile home park,
Mobile
senior
home
living.
What would I want to see for the lot?
Well, right now it currently houses many seniors, most
Yes.
of which are, quite elderly and have nowhere else to go. So where will these seniors be going if they're displaced? And will you try and protect this area for these seniors to live out their years?
Absolutely. Why would we want any residents to have to leave our city? If they're able to stay there and if we keep that as it is, then everyone should be able to share in our splendor here in the city. I don't think that we should have to kick anybody down, especially the people that decide to, sorry for accusing them, but to spend the rest of their lives here. If they want to spend the rest of their lives here, then please, by all means, do, because we want you here.
That's kind of not what's happening now. The seniors are told by someone that they will be, the lot will be sold. That
By
particular,
someone?
yeah, the owners will sell, and there will be high density housing, it'll all be rezoned.
And they're told this is happening.
They are told this will be happening.
When?
They have not given us a time yet.
So how do we know?
Because
Time's up. Question's been asked and answered. We can clarify this directly with the candidates later. Tim?
Repeat your question for both of us.
What will you do with the west side of Foothill Terrace? Because we are told that it will be sold and made into high-density housing.
Over by Emerald then,
No,
east side.
on the right side, behind Coles.
Can you get a little bit closer? I don't think.
I understand the question.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm a little familiar with the question regarding, apparently there's an issue with the operators and a portion of the land owners that own a portion of the land you're talking about. If I'm not mistaken, they have already told the city that they will not rezone. They will keep it a mobile home park. They may have to split it. This is the preliminary that I understand from Bob Rusty, the city manager, and Steve Johnson, the Johnson family. That's all I know about that, but they're going to keep it a mobile home community. They may separate it depending on they're still in negotiations with the operator, and so there's nothing been decided permanently yet, but that will not be homes, I can tell you that right now. And you can double check with Bob Rusty. So they're going to protect the residents and make sure you guys are safe, to make sure, I would imagine if there's any movement, the city will be involved to make sure that any of those owners that have manufactured homes, they'll be, I'm sure, compensated to be located where they can on the property. That's what I know.
Put a pause real fast. Do you need to? Rich, do you need to?
No, I'm good.
Okay. John?
You had your chance 2 weeks ago. So Foothill Terrace is a mobile home park, the largest mobile home park in Verne, and it has 3 owners, the Johnson family, the Cullen family, and then the manager works for the company. He manages the whole thing. Casitas, the Verne Mobile Home Park had an issue where the owner of the dirt notified in writing the operator of the mobile home park that in a certain amount of time that they had to give this property back to the owner of the dirt without anything on it. So we went to work on an ordinance. And what this ordinance does is it protects the residents, all of the residents in all of our parks. And this was passed. Then we came back and did a second ordinance, which even puts more teeth in it. And if anybody remembers the 210 freeway, the 210 freeway created, we had to take out 179 homes, or 179 homes disappeared. Those people were clearly treated. That's the model that we used in mobile homes. So I don't think you have an issue in Foothill Terrace at all. I know the people, I've heard them, and I don't think you had any issue at all. Can't guarantee it, but that's what I've heard. But I know that if they did change it, they can't change the zoning because that has to come to the city council.
Thank you. So we have Cynthia Galbadon, followed by Robert Carter, and then followed by Michelle Cash. If this is a general question, the first to answer will be Tim.
It's definitely going to be general, but I also want to say sorry. But thank you to everybody for being here tonight. This is actually what the United States of America is all about, bottom line. So, but mine's pretty short and sweet. Second Amendment, yes or no? Are you for it? And two, would you work with the current PD chief to reinstate concealed carry?
Yes and yes.
Several years ago, we had an issue that came to the city council on CCWs, our concealed carry, and we had our police chief in charge of that. City council cannot and does not have any authority whatsoever in this. That has come from the state legislature. Only the police chief or in a city or the county sheriff has authority on this issue. Police chief used to do it. Last I talked to him, he had received 17 applications and at least 11 had been approved for CCWs. So there were people that had them. They had to go through a process. And if the police chief felt that the person should be allowed to conceal carry, then that person was given a permit. Sometimes it's a partial permit depending on what they do for work and why they need the event. But it is because of the extensive work that the police department was engaged in, they turned it over to the sheriff because they have more manpower to do this. But my belief is that the same outcome, there are people that are applying that get it, and there's some people that are applying that don't get it. It's not a city council issue.
I am for the Second Amendment. If the law is concealed carry, that's fine, as long as somebody is knowledgeable in weapons. That's how I feel. I grew up learning how to shoot, learning how to be responsible with the weapon, and as long as the owner of a firearm is trained and responsible, there's nothing really I can do to stop him. That would be for me to judge. So, yes and yes.
Okay, so the next question is from Robert Carter, and it's a general question. The first one to answer will be Don.
Good evening. I know we already heard the answer in regards to whether you support Measure LV. 2 were in favor and 1 was not in favor of it. We have a budget of a little bit over $66 million. What I'd like to know is, do you know what our expenses are? And if this does not pass, where will you specifically be cutting? Not just general, but where will you specifically be cutting?
Don?
That's a tough question because it affects each and every person in this room. First of all, I hope that you vote yes, so this doesn't become a problem. But we will have to start cutting somewhere. Not necessarily right away, but we will have to. We have a capital improvement program that we put money away. That's gonna probably have to start, we're gonna start seeing deterioration of our roads. We're gonna start seeing deterioration of our water and sewer lines. Things that you don't see, but you certainly appreciate when you turn the faucet or flush the toilet. If we're gonna have these problems, you're gonna start experiencing. It won't become a personnel issue in the beginning, but it could, and if it does, we will start seeing a deterioration of quality of life in Laverne.
Zach?
Sorry, I was waiting for an answer. You're asking if we had to cut, where to cut.
My question is, if it does not pass, you will have to cut. Where do you envision those cuts being made?
I don't believe we will have to cut. I don't think that is a problem. I think if we reallocate places that we're not going to have to cut anything. I might be young and naive, but I'm looking at the spending, and I mean, first of all, I can't look at where we're spending the money because I've asked for an itemized list from every department, and our government does not have an itemized list for anything. So we can't even know what we're spending money on. I can't tell you how much money we spent on how many pens for City Hall, but they just go ahead and do an audit every year that's not itemized. So I would say, before we start cutting things, why don't we implement an actual audit, and then we can actually see where our money is going, and then from there we can make informed decisions. Because right now we're just seeing a lump sum of money, and we're just seeing it, oh, well, this is taking away $1 million for walkie-talkies for police, this and that, but we're not actually seeing anything else, just lump sums of money. I'd like to see an itemized list in order to be able to tell you where we can cut.
Tim?
If the tax measure doesn't pass, well, then it's time for us to get to the table with the residents and staff and figure out where all the money is going, and figure out what we're going to do if we do have a shortfall, and figure out what part of the city we can do, what we can't do without. But be honest about it. And open governance. Again, transparency. Review it with the citizens and also with the staff to see where we're at. And we may have, you never know. It's amazing what you can do with less. And it's very important to run a lean ship, but it's very important to keep the services that the city and the residents are used to. So we need to keep it all in balance, but you need to be with a seat at the table to understand what's going on, to review all of this. Thank you.
Okay, so queued up next is Michelle Cash, followed by Brandy Sullivan, and then followed by Hal Fredrickson. If it's a general question, Mr. Cash, it will be started off with Zach responding.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Michelle Cash in Talkeetna. And my greatest concern in the city is public safety. What are you going to do as mayor to increase our public safety in this great community that we have here today? We have crime been rising, we have more and more offenders that have been released into the public, and we have seen a dramatic change in this city regarding crime. And the question again is, what are you going to do to increase our public safety in our community? Thank you.
I know public safety is important, but I'm going to have to disagree with you because I just got numbers from the police chief that said that we are down in crime in the city. He just sent me over those numbers 2 days ago after I had a meeting with him on Thursday, I believe it was. So if we're talking public safety, are we talking police? Are we talking fire? Because I think fire can use a little bit more money. I think the police, if we got enough money to buy thousands of dollars worth of DJI drones with thermal imaging, then we obviously have some spending room. I think if we could buy an armored vehicle, I think we got some spending room. I think the crime rate, since it's gone down, I think our police are doing a great job. And I mean, I don't know what to tell you. My numbers that, at least that I was given, are different. And the police chief said that anything that he wants, he could call up the council and they'll say, yeah, sure. That was just a direct quote from him, so I don't know what to tell you. I'd like to see more money in fire. I'd like to see them be able to run their department with as much confidence as the police runs their department. And I think that that's the side of safety that nobody's really talking about, especially the safety of those who are in charge of our safety. I think we need to think about that first before we even start thinking about crime stats that are actually really great for the past couple of years.
Thank you. Tim?
First order of business is rebuild our fire department, open Station 3. That's the first order of business. Second order of business is outfit these men with the proper equipment and also the proper staffing levels to where we could run our fire department to keep our residents safe when they need a firefighter paramedic in this community. Third of all, is keep our police department fully staffed. It is changing. 8109, Prop 4757 brought some terrible stuff to all of our communities. And we just don't have enough police officers out the street. We do use mutual aid, but we can't rely on that all the time. So we're gonna have to probably put more police officers. The gold line is gonna bring us some issues that we need to keep this community safe, keep it the small town that we know. So we're gonna have to pay for that. But the first order of business is get that fire department back up and running. And I will say that unfortunately, by mismanagement of our city staff, our city manager did this and made this happen to this beautiful fire department we've had for so many years and create such contention. It's uncalled for. If we love this fire department so much, then put up or shut up. Thank you.
Don?
Well, Cash, you're the only one that's here with a clean tie. Congratulations. Must be running for office. We are having a reduction in crime, which is great. The three major crimes in our city is assault, burglary, and larceny. All are down. Assault is down 23%, burglary is down 15%, and larceny is down 32%. So we are doing a really good job of getting it down, but boy, there were some things that were passed, and we're going to be looking at, hopefully, a November bill that proposition that everybody needs to be aware of to make our community safer and get some of these people back in prisons. And I will address that in my closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, the next audience question comes from Brandy Sullivan. If it's a general question, it will start with Tim. Just to queue up, Mr. Frederickson indicated that his question had already been asked and answered. So we'll go to Leslie Simone, followed by Marlene Carney. Brandy?
Hi, Brandy Sullivan. I'm born and raised here, and I work in the city, and so does my husband. And we have a very vested interest in this community. We have 3 children that live here and go to school here. So watching some of the city council meetings and the decisions you're making for our fire department, for our police department, for us as citizens, I want to know how you're going to restore our faith and trust in the city council if you're elected mayor. Because a lot of the city council meetings, the decisions aren't being made, maturity is not being shown. So I just want to know how you're going to restore that faith as mayor.
It starts with Tim.
That's a big question. I think first of all, in our city, and I think some of these issues we've had with our employees, the employees are the most valued part of our city. It's residents and employees. The residents are the ones that deal with the employees all the time. It's very important to keep a safe working environment, also outfitted with the right tools to do your job. That's from public safety to fire. I think the first order of business to make that happen We need an HR director and a risk manager in this city. That's the first order of business. We have personnel directors, that's not enough. We have 230 so employees. It's so important to have risk management and an HR director in place to know exactly what's going on when you have an issue, to stop it before it gets to be a problem. Especially when you have 27 rank and file members of a department vote of no confidence against a fire chief, and nothing is done about it until a $5.5 million lawsuit is slapped on the city. That's wrong. So what I would do, first order of business, city manager, new city council get together, first order of business, risk manager, HR director, to right this ship up and get this back on where the employees have a voice at the table and they get honest negotiations to enable to get contracts that are fair for the residents and fair for the employees. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, first of all. Building trust in our city is very important because our city employees are the ones that provide the services to our residents. And so that's critical. How is that interacting? And it does have an effect if the employee is not as happy as we could make them. The city has hired a person, a retired police chief, to do everything they can to try and bridge the gap and create solutions for us so we can get back to where we were before.
I think if we're going to try and have the citizens have faith in the government again, I think the government has to extend an olive branch to the department first. I think that they have to build trust between them before the citizens are able to see that, okay, we can trust them. We can start to repair that relationship that's been tainted. I think it's as simple as just calling, hey guys, can we come down and bring you a pizza? I don't think that they'd say no to that, just to be able to talk. I think it's as simple as that. And then from there, then we can start talking. And then from there, the citizens will be able to see, you know, we're coming to the table, we're being mature, we're being adults, and we want to work this out because it's what's best for everyone. And I think once that happens, then we'll be able to start trusting again. Thank you.
Okay, so the next question will be from Leslie Simone, followed by Marlene Carney, and then that will be followed by Pat Wenzel.
My question is, can you please explain your assessment of how the firefighters' vote of 27-1, no confidence of their fire chief, could have been handled differently?
And the individual starting that response will be Don.
I think the lawsuit was totally unfortunate for everybody. For cities that are going through exactly the same thing that Laverne did, and when the settlement was settled, West Indiana filed, just like that. And there's a lot of small cities that have fire departments that have a blueprint that is happening. It is sad, it hurts Laverne, but it wasn't about the fire chief. It wasn't about anything other than an attorney that wanted to support and make money, and they're doing it. And I'm sorry to say that, but I just don't respect what's going on. Fortunately, it didn't cost the city of Verne anything. The judge said that there wasn't anything that was wrong. They settled within 18 hours when the judge threw the stuff out. But we're hurt, and we're hurt bad, and I don't like it, and we've never had this before, and we need to figure a way to get back to where we can be the best we can be with our fire department, our police department, and the rest of our employees. I'm sorry it happened.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I think it did cost us. It cost us trust. Just as the previous question, it cost us a lot. It cost this community a lot of faith in the government. And I think for somebody who talks about quality of life so much, you want the quality of life of the people who are protecting us to actually be there. I know when I was growing up and my dad would go off to work, I don't know if he's coming back. He's gone 4 days, where's Dad? Oh, now he's on another force hire. I don't know if he's coming back. So just that little bit of trust that we lost a lot there. And that I would have handled differently just by listening. Because if there's that much going into, if there's that many people saying, look, this is what's happening, it's not going to be a lie. That there's, you need to believe the people that you're trusting to take care of everyone in the city. And I think that was a total mismanagement on the government's part. And you should listen to your employees. And you are wrong. That cost us greatly, and we're still paying the price for it.
Tim?
Mr. Kendrick, I'm sorry to hear your explanation. I'm sorry. You were the sitting mayor at the time. On May of 2016, when 27 firefighters have a vote of no confidence against a fire chief, you, the city manager, the city attorney, the 3 sitting council members did nothing. I was the only council member that stood up and went to the city manager and said, you're going to allow one individual to affect and destroy the fabric of a fire department that you so love, Mr. Kendrick. Where were you? I was the one that got sacrificed, flambéed. Resolution 1852 and 1851 were forced against me to remove me from all closed session because supposedly I leaked information, which I did not. So, fast forward. Where were you all when these firefighters were saying and having difficulty and not being fairly treated? And then fast forward to a $5.5 million lawsuit. Mr. Kendrick, if I was mayor, that never would have happened. Our employees would have been a lot happier right now and a lot more harmonious place to work and live in this great community. Thank you.
Okay, so next up is Marlene Carney, followed by Pat Wenzel, followed by Alan Wyndham. If this is a general question, the first to respond will be Zach.
Enhancing economic development efforts and diversifying and expanding the business mix should be a priority for the city. We need a strong, thriving economy to maintain a quality of life. What, as mayor, will you do to accomplish this priority?
Zach?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Just the beginning.
Enhancing economic development efforts and diversifying and expanding the business mix should be a priority for the city. And what will you do?
What would I do? Well, if elected, I'd like to look elsewhere than big chain stores like Target, like Kohl's, like McDonald's. I'd like to look more towards our community for places that they would like to open in their own community. Even people that live in St. Demas or Claremont, people that are close by. I think if we foster community relationships like that, then we'd be able to diversify. Just the businesses alone, we want to attract, the goal of the government and the lots that are laid out and that are for sale, that they lay out what ideally want, and it is big chain restaurants, it's big chain stores, and nobody's coming to Target thinking, oh my God, now that we're at Target, let's go check out the rest of the town. Everybody's just going, all right, I was at Target for 2 hours, I spent way more money than I had anticipated, now let me go home and play with all my new stuff. So I think just looking inwards towards the community and having we don't know where the next warehouse is going to come from and what's really going to define our city. So I think we should be open to all of those possibilities.
Thanks. Tim?
I've supported our downtown business and our foothill corridor by shopping and staying in Laverne. One of my biggest things is shop Laverne. Buy what you can, get your gas before you leave, go to your restaurants. I do think though, as time changes, we need to tweak that model and be more involved as a community and also as council to get out there. Get those small little businesses, the little niche shops, the little marketplaces. Our community is a great community. And I know we always said we're kind of an odd area because of our demographics. I don't know. I think we spend money in this town. I think most of us do. And I think it's very important, but we need to kind of tweak it. We are part of the economic partnership, which most businesses know what we have, where we are, our demographics, our social economic makeup. But I think we need to get out there. We need to promote ourselves. These little shops, more not so fast food, but more really good food restaurants and clothing places that I know will all shop. So really involve, engage, and again, open governance, talk to the residents. What do you guys want? Let's at least try it. We've got a great community. As Mayor Kendrick said, there's not a lot of space available. But what is available, let's make it something that we're all going to use. Thank you.
Enhancing our economic development is not necessarily going to come from Foothill Boulevard or downtown, because both of those are pretty full. I definitely agree to keep them full, but our next expansion and our future development is going to be centered around the gold line. And how's that going to look like? And there was a plan about that, and it will bring lots of property tax revenue in, it'll bring lots of sales tax revenue. I don't know how many people get their car repaired down in the corner of west corner of Arrow and White, but can you picture a 5 to 6 story, 200-room hotel there? Because it's coming. And the Fairplex is excited about it, north 15 acres, and Fairplex is in Laverne. All that revenue is going to come in, new restaurants, new businesses, new office space, and hopefully some expansion in the San Paulo Business District if we can create that. But we are on a good program with the EIFD and being able to do the infrastructure work for our businesses of the future. It'll be an exciting time. Thank you.
Next up is Pat Wenzel. Is Pat here? No, okay. So we have Alan Wyndham, followed by Lynn Del Toro, then followed by Kathy Windsor. Okay, thank you. Since we're moving quite along and we have Lynn walking up, I just wanted to take a quick break and have you all look around this brand new gym. And I want to say thank you on behalf of a very grateful family and community member. It is because of you and your vote of support of the school district that facilities like this exist in the cities of Laverne and San Dimas. And I think I saw a gentleman sneak in, Bob Ketterling. If I could have you stand up. Long-time principal for this great high school. He ushered in a lot of the great ideas that you see in the improvement. So again, we are a great community because of our school district, and we have to thank you, the community, for making it happen. Lynn.
My question is for all three candidates. Do you agree that the city manager or a city employee should be able to have access to or filter communications from residents to the council member's city address, whether it be in the form of an email or a packet delivered?
Okay, so the first to answer this question will be Tim.
No.
If there is staff that can answer it better, as long as I get the information and can also correspond, so that the city corresponds like a department head, and I correspond also with that person, they get an answer, and they get the two-way conversation with the elected official. And that happens a lot.
Zach?
No, because that's mail meant for somebody else, and if you did that anywhere else in this country, that's a federal offense. And that's absolutely ridiculous. So, absolutely.
Kathy Windsor?
Good evening, and thanks for you guys being here. It's a great event. The city owns several hundred acres of open space, most of which were given to the city in 2006 by the county, purchased with state and county bond money, millions of dollars for open space. In 2016, a parks needs assessment was done, and I attended those meetings, and the number one priority of the parks needs assessment was to open up new trails. The city's owned this property for 14 years and has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars studying it, including a full EIR on what it would do to the property to put passive recreation in there. I want to know if you support creating new trails and then managing them for the benefit of our community.
And this question is first answered by Don.
Thank you, Kathy. This property was a number of parcels that was privately owned, was purchased by money from the public trust, if I remember, and the county did not want it. And so the decision was made by the city council at the time that the city would take it. And Kathy's right, there has been a lot of research on this property. The problem is, one of the problems is the money to fulfill the desire of a few, and the people around this acreage do not want anything developed. And they have come to meetings and said that. So what can we develop on this open space that's going to protect the residents that are adjacent to it and provide the recreation for other people? And we're working on it.
Zach?
Well, I'm looking right now at our official zoning map, and I see no open space designations anywhere. We actually do not have an OS zone anywhere in our city. Not our parks, those are all designated official, which is fine if we want to build on them, the facilities like the teen center and all of that, but that's the same designation as the freeway and the reservoir. I would actually like to see an open space zoning. I would like more trails. I love hiking, even with my bad knees. I know I might look young, but my knees got some city miles on them. But I would love more trails. I would love to be able to hike. I would love this city to be able to have more actual open space to be able to go enjoy the beauty that we have here.
Tim?
I first want to thank Kathy Windsor, Lynn Del Toro, also Sabina Sullivan, who's not here. When the Marshall Canyon Sierra Verne swap was canceled, the County of Los Angeles, Marshall Canyon Golf Course was pretty much in disrepair. These three women and other groups of people, the Conservancy, rallied with the county supervisor at the time, Antonovich, to secure funding to repair cart paths. They've got, I think, $4.5 million that they're spending on that golf course in order to upgrade it. Water, infrastructure, parking lots, pathways, approaches. So that's what happens when residents get involved. And I understand the open space you're talking about. And it has gone on for a long time, way too long. The sensitivity part of it is, though, obviously, the residents don't want that. And I think that's been spelled out. They don't want the access to their backyards and people traipsing around their yards. So we have to be very cautious and cognizant of what the residents want. And also the same thing is we have to fund that. We do have park funds, but we have to fund that and secure it and monitor it. So it's a delicate balance. Some of these spaces, it's tough when you've got residents that are so close to it that it could be an issue for their safety. Thank you.
I want to thank the members of the audience. Your questions were varied and touched on all but one of the predetermined questions from the leadership of LV3C. So I actually only have one more predetermined question. We've gone through all of the audience questions, we've touched all the members who said they wanted to ask a question have asked a question. So this question will start with Zach, and it goes as follows. Since the FCC does not allow cities to deny the location of a cell tower based on health concerns, what steps will you take to discourage a wireless carrier to construct a wireless telecommunications facility, including 4G, 5G, macro, massive MIMO, or micro, small cells, near residential areas, schools, and parks? And again, that starts with Zach.
Moi. Well, I owe an answer to Susie Moraz first, who asked me this question, and I promised I'd get back to her. And this is, I agree with the scientific consensus that the cell phone towers do not cause cancer developmental problems. I think that with any new technology, and in this case it's going to be 5G, it's important to remember, what we're getting from this new technology, and that at its core is communication, and that's communication that's better and faster, that's global, and the first line of defense for our emergency services. The first thing that we can do if we have the spaces that are already taken, we can't do anything about. But what I think that we can do is when we need more coverage, that's something that we need to bring residents in, because it is a legitimate concern for a lot of people, is the actual health and safety, and that's a legitimate concern, health and safety. So we need to talk with residents of, well, this is where we're looking, what's your input on that, and we need to decide as a community where is best for us to put those new systems.
Time's up. Thank you. Tim?
I do believe in new technology. We know 5G is the new wireless technology. It would allow residents to download more content and data at a much quicker pace, but at what cost? We must weigh the risk versus the benefits. The World Health Organizations and the FCC are still doing research on the safety, so we cannot go flying blind. We must, as a city, engage all of the residents in open discussion with experts as a resource to find the safest practices for 5G. I support an urgency ordinance for wireless telecommunication facilities to make sure that we keep all of our residents safe and also keep our city uncluttered and attractive. Thank you.
I think the biggest thing for each and every one of us on technology is we all use it, but are we safe with it? And that's my biggest issue, is health and safety issues. Yeah, it's great to have, but is it worth it? And that's something that I'm not sure that any of us have the answer to. So the health and safety of all of our residents is very important. We had a study session on this. We're going to have more study sessions on this. We are looking at creating an ordinance. We are looking to get more expert input into how this is going to look. There is a number of litigation situations where we're not even sure how it's going to look when it comes out the other end. The FCC has pretty much declared, like Matt said, that we have limitations. Are those being challenged in court? And how's that going to look later? But I will tell you, the main thing that I care about is your health and your safety with technology. Thank you.
Okay, so all of the audience questions have been asked and answered. We've asked the predetermined questions as well from the leadership at LV3C. We're going to be transitioning to the closed statements, but before we do, I just wanted to thank all of the parties involved, the audience and candidates, for a very pleasurable experience. It could have gone sideways on many occasions tonight. But I wanted to read just a brief blurb from an email exchange with the leaders that have developed this forum, because I think we should all be proud of ourselves for running a civil forum. But I briefly touched on this earlier, but I feel a successful moderator is seen and heard very little. I don't want to hear myself speak. I want to hear from the candidates, and I want questions to be unfiltered and come directly from Laverne residents. And the LV3 format ensures you hear very little from me and a lot from the candidates on matters that are important to the residents who show up. The LV3C format is best in class. While there is always room for improvement, be proud of what you have accomplished already with the Council Candidates Forum and the public good that will be provided tonight with the Mayoral Forum. We are helping our neighbors, friends, and naysayers get better acquainted with our mayoral candidates. And for that, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. With that said, we're going to be going to closing statements. And the order will be Zach, Dawn, and Tim. You will have 3 minutes. Go ahead, Zach.
I just want to thank you all for coming here and listening to us. It actually means a lot to see so many of you guys here. Now, Laverne needs a mayor who is not afraid to ask why, who's not afraid to ask questions and ask for help. A mayor who feels confident in imperfection, because to have all of the answers is to have closed ears. Laverne needs a mayor who fights for these silly ideals, to bring change, to rationally push back against tradition just for the sake of tradition, and to fight for the safety, the health, and well-being of all members of the community and our future. I believe that progress is necessary and valuable. I believe that change is growth and knowledge, not fear and isolation. I believe that this city deserves a third option for those that feel forgotten, so that they may feel more welcome in stepping forward and being heard. We deserve a mayor who actually listens to the concerns of our residents, our city officials, our fire department, which is a great way to not rack up 9 lawsuits in 3 years. It's just an idea. And I want everyone here tonight and moving forward, you're going to hear a lot of platitudes. You're going to hear a lot regarding words like safety, transparency, and a huge one is quality of life. But I want you to ask yourself, what do these words and phrases truly mean, not only to our government, but to you personally? How can we better define these buzzwords, these buzz phrases, so we can truly get at what we want from our government? Laverne's future first. Thank you, everyone.
Don?
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have had in our state a huge problem. It was mentioned earlier about AB 109, Prop 47, or Prop 57. Those should not roll off my tongue so easy. AB 109 was an early release of 50,000 state prisoners that are on our streets today. Fast forward to 2014, Proposition 14 was passed. It's called the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. All it did was take felonies and change them to misdemeanors. Prop 57, passed in 2016, mostly by Governor Brown. It was called the Public Safety and Rehabilitation Act, except no rehabilitation came with it. It was an early release of 3,000 criminals convicted of non-violent felonies. Among the crimes that are classified by the state as non-violent include rape by intoxication, rape of an unconscious person, human trafficking involving sex acts with minors, drive-by shootings, assault with a deadly weapon, and hate crimes causing physical injury. That's what the cash was talking about, our crimes going up. It's all right here. 26 times I have met in people's homes and our senior mobile home parks to try and create safety for our residents. I brought a card, an invitation card. A lot of you have had these on your porches. Some of you have attended. This was from Bob Penderlin, who was introduced earlier. I just happened to pick it up. Thank you, Bob, for that. When you come, you find out from Sergeant Martinez how you can be safe, how we can be safe together. What is our obligation? And if we see something, should we say something? Those are the kinds of things that I have created. Homeless Task Force hasn't been brought up tonight. It should. We have an epidemic in Southern California. We have 69,000 people homeless. Only 32,000 of those are in LA. Where are they? Some are right here. When we brought our new captain over from Arcadia, she was an expert in homeless for the goal line. And we have created a way to help these people be the best that they can be. I'm a person who finds a need and fills it. Hands-on history. Your students, your kids have probably gone through it. I founded that in 1990. Helping to create the first ever economic development. And co-founded the Career Technical Education Center at Fairplex, which I co-chair today, and have created hundreds of jobs for restaurants for our people. Thank you for coming. Have a great night.
Tim?
Once again, I want to thank everybody for coming, the LV3C for having this forum, and Matt Lyons for moderating. A lot of you here tonight have known me for many years, and you know why I love this city and why I want to serve as mayor. But for those of you who may not know my plans, or who know me, my plans for the future, I want to hear from you. That's why on every flyer out there, on every handout, website, I put my personal cell phone number. I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. I want to know what concerns you have and what ideas you have for this city so that I can make informed decisions and act on your behalf. I want to be accessible to all residents, and I want to hear from all residents, because that's what the whole deal is all about, making the city better for all of us. As a successful business owner for over 25 years, I've learned that nothing replaces hard work, grit, and the ability to adapt and change. It's not always easy, but you ultimately grow stronger and more resilient in the process. As mayor, I will take the challenges the city faces ahead and head on, and I will not simply fall into "this is how it's always been done" mentality. Utilizing the best resources of this city, our city employees, our fire and police department, our business owners, and most importantly, you, the residents. I will make sure the city thrives. Let's make sure our fire and police are fully funded and stay local. Let's make sure our local government is transparent and responsive. Let's make sure our parks and open spaces are around for the future. children of Laverne. And let's make sure the city government works for you. If elected mayor, I promise to work long and hard each and every day, making darn sure I live up to the honor of earning your vote. Moving forward, the things I will concentrate on as your mayor. I will work to ensure the fire and police stay local and fully funded and help to rebuild a relationship with the firefighters that was destroyed by the current administration. Continue on improving the transparency for residents and employees. Support the no rezoning of Sierra Laverne golf property. I believe that I'm the best candidate to represent the residents and employees of Laverne. It is time for change. As campaigning, multiple and hundreds of people knocking on doors, the one word that resounds every time I see a resident, no matter what age, too long, it's time for change. Vote for Tim Hepburn for mayor. Thank you all.
So to close us out, Rick Bowman is president. I just simply want to say thank you all for attending. It's been 2 hours, and I hope you learned a hell of a lot tonight. Thank you so much.
Why?